All right, well, Vikings entered their minicamp early, taking the final day off today as they get a nice long 6-week break before clocking into training camp at TCO at the end of July. We'll get into some soundbite quotes from Kirk Cousins here in a second, but first, CBS Sports highlighted the best offseason move from each NFC team. For the Vikings, Patrick Walker said it was stealing Za'Darius Smith from the division rival Packers, not only bringing in another pass-rushing menace to add opposite of Danielle Hunter, but a 2-for-1, being able to steal such a high-level player at a premium position from your biggest division threat. Just how big of an impact could Za'Darius have in this new Ed Donatel defense? And with his injury past, he's getting a little long in the tooth, 31 years old. Just how much trouble would they be in if he or Hunter were to miss any lengthy period of time?
Yeah, that would be tough. You're banking on his health. You know, anytime you got someone dealing with the back issue, you're just like, I don't know. But, you know, he was able to come back at the end of last season, and he's now gone through this full offseason of work so far, healthy. And so you're like, okay, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. Let's hope for the best. And then it's also really good, too, because they have a scheme change going from the 4-3 to the 3-4, and he's played in that pretty much his whole career. And so he's going to be someone who is going to be integral in helping, you know, as they transition to this 3-4, because he knows his assignment. He knows what everybody else is supposed to do, you know, along that front seven, and he's going to help get everybody together for that. And I think, you know, him being able to have kind of like a on-the-job training, not that Danielle Hunter needs to be trained for anything, but him being able to be out there and show by example of what to do on that edge as they stand up from putting their hand, as Danielle really stands up from putting his hand on the ground the last few years, I think is going to be really crucial to their transition into this new scheme.
Hunter's always had that veteran presence, you're right. Like Everson Griffin was always the guy he looked up to. So still having somebody like Za'Darius Smith, and not to mention they bring over the linebacker coach from the Packers, Mike Smith. So you know Za'Darius is already feeling warm and welcome at his new home, very comfortable with that linebacker coach that he had and worked under in Green Bay and Mike Smith.
Yeah, and so I think you're looking at two guys who are going to be some game wreckers if they are healthy. And that is a scary thought for the rest of that division and really the rest of the NFC when you talk about their contention for the playoffs and them having to, you know, teams having to come through Minnesota to get to where they're going to get. I think Minnesota's going to make it very hard for all of these other teams when they play. Like it's not going to be a very easy game when the Vikings come to town or when they come to town to play the Vikings.
Everybody's just, yeah, but if they can stay healthy. But it's true, there's definitely some serious injury concerns, some injury past, so it's warranted. Yeah. I mean, they do need to stay healthy, but it's hard not to get pretty excited when you just look at the talent when healthy, if they can stay healthy, play a full slate, 17 games, whatever it may be. As far as the rest of the division, the article says the best move for the Packers was bound down to Aaron Rodgers, paying him off, retaining him for the next few years. The Lions, it was signing wideout DJ Chark, adding more speed into the offense for Jared Goff. And for the Bears, well, it was just not trading away Robert Quinn. Good job, guys. Retain one of your best players. The bar is just set awfully low over there, huh? It's just something about Chicago, man.
They're going to be a defensive team, I feel like, with this next season. I mean, they bring a defensive coordinator over as head coach, and you have a guy like Robert Quinn back there. I mean, they did trade Khalil Mack, so that's not really doing them any favors. But, you know, their defense wasn't bad last year, and I think they're going to probably hang their hat more on the defensive side this season.
Yeah. Speaking of Za'Darius Smith, after practice, Kirk Cousins said Ed Donatel's defense will make things muddy for opponents. To paraphrase, he said, when I get up to the line of scrimmage, I don't know who's coming, who's going. There's a lot of moving parts. When you hear those comments from Kirk, what's your initial thoughts about what the defense is going to look and feel like in 2022? Because remember, we had 8 years of Mike Zimmer. We're used to one thing, one certain way for almost a decade. It's certainly going to be something different after 8 straight years under Zim.
Well, you look at where Donatel has just kind of come from, that Vic Fangio defense. And Vic Fangio is largely regarded as one of the best defensive coordinators in the game. And Ed Donatel was with him, and they were just cooking up just some fire, cooking up some goodness, giving offenses fits, you know, especially in that loaded AFC West that he was coming from. Like, that defense was one of the best defenses in the league. And the offense just couldn't match up with him. But him coming over now without Fangio, but now he has a collaborative type of thing going on with Mike Pettin being there, Mike Smith being there, all these guys kind of like creating like a meeting of the minds. And I think the cool thing about Ed Donatel is he's not one of those like old stubborn guys. Like, even though he's kind of an old wily guy, you know, he's still in the position where he's like, look, I'm still trying to learn. And he wanted to get aligned with someone like Kevin O'Connell because that was going to be an offense that was going to challenge him, that was going to keep his mind fresh, trying to figure out how to battle different offenses around the league, game in and game out. And I think that is what is really cool about this whole thing is he's hungry, he's motivated, he has a lot of different ideas. He's open to different ideas from Kevin O'Connell and the rest of that defensive coaching staff as well. And I think that is going to be a good recipe for just some chaos on game days.
Immediately what I go to is, okay, a lot of moving parts means a lot of different roles and sub packages for guys. Kind of the new wave and identity of the NFL. Sub packages for a lot of these different depth, second and third team guys. You got your base defense. We know what those 11 guys are going to look like. But okay, now it's nickel. Maybe they love the rookie from Oklahoma in passing situations. Maybe they want a 3-safety look on 3rd and 13 versus 3rd and 6 with Harry, Bynum, and Seen. So many options inside this front seven, specifically with early round picks we just don't know anything about. Like we've mentioned, Patrick Jones, 3rd round pick, Demarcus Robinson, Florida State, Chaz Surratt was a 3rd round pick, Troy Dye, DJ Wanham's moving to a new position. Maybe he finds himself hand in the dirt once in a while. Muddying looks means just a lot of different moving parts, a lot of different variables. And it tells me a lot of different looks and wrinkles. And the best coaches, we've said this before too, maximize their player skill sets. So finding unique roles for some of these guys in sub packages is what I fully expect to come to fruition once we get, 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season and everybody is more comfortable with the meat and potatoes, just kind of this defensive install. That's a wrap from mandatory minicamp, though, and it's going to be a nice long stretch of vacation for a lot of these guys, including Kevin O'Connell, who said since the beginning of training camp last year with the Rams, he really hasn't taken a break or had any time off, and we'll use these next few weeks to really clear his head before the starting training camp takes place in 6 weeks. Kind of the calm before the storm here now, Reg.
Yeah, take care of some of those kids, brother. You got all those kids.
Kidding,
take
man.
care of
Family
them.
Man.